Hello, and welcome to our presentation about sensation and perception. Sensation and perception has to do with the way your brain gathers, organizes, and interprets sensory information or stimuli. A stimulus is any form of energy that's capable of exciting the nervous system, such as heat, light, or odor. When we talk about stimuli, it's important to know two different thresholds. The first is the absolute threshold, which is the amount of energy needed for an organism to detect a stimuli. The second is the difference threshold, which is the minimum amount of change in a stimuli needed for it to be differentiated from another. Signal detection theory describes four situations of stimuli detection. For example, a hit would be when a stimulus occurs and it is detected. Andrew! Next, a miss is when a stimulus occurs but it is not detected. Andrew! Next, a false positive is when a stimulus does not occur, but it is detected. Lastly, we have a correct rejection. This is when a stimulus does not occur and it is not detected. Transduction is a key process in stimuli detection, and it is when stimuli is converted into neural impulses and sent to the brain. Before we can cover the sensory organs, we have to talk about the waves in which light and sound energy travel. First, wavelength is the distance between the top of one wave to the top of the next wave, and is what depicts the color of light. Next, amplitude is the height of a wave, and is what depicts brightness of light or loudness of sound, and in the case of sound, it is measured in decibels. Purity is the number of wavelengths that make up light, and this is what depicts the purity of that light, similarly to the property of complexity for sound waves, which depicts the timbre of sound. Sound waves also have the unique property of frequency, which is the number of times the air molecules expand and contract in 1 second, which corresponds to the pitch, measured in hertz. To start off the eye, we're going to talk about the cornea, which is the outermost transparent part of the eye where light initially begins to bend as it enters the eye. The iris is the colored part of the eye, which is also a muscular structure that either opens or closes to let more or less light into the pupil, which is the hole in the center of the eye that light actually enters through. The lens is similar to the cornea, being a transparent covering. However, it's flexible, and this is where light is bent to be cast directly onto the retina. A side note, the lens becomes less flexible with age and can lead to vision issues such as near and farsightedness. The retina is a thin piece of tissue in the back of the eye that contains rods and cones. Rods transduce light coming into the eye when light breaks down the chemical rhodopsin inside them. Rods assist greatly in peripheral vision and vision in darker areas. Cones transduce light coming into the eye when light breaks down the chemical iodopsin inside them, and cones assist greatly in color vision. In the center of the retina, there is the fovea. This is where vision is best, and it is directly opposite to the pupil. After the light energy is taken in by the eye and transduced by the rods and cones, the retinal nerve transfers those impulses to the brain. There are also the two theories of color vision. First is the trichromatic theory. This theory says that cones are sensitive to three primary colors, red, blue, and green, and different combinations of these receptions are what produce different colors. Next is the opponent process theory, which says that cones are sensitive to two complementary colors each, such as red and green or blue and yellow. Finally, for the eye, we have color blindness, which affects about 1 in every 50 people. However, it occurs more often in females because of the link between color blindness and the X chromosome. Sensations enter the ear via rhythmic vibrations of air molecules which travel in sound waves. First, for the structure of the ear, we have the pinna, which is the very outermost part of the ear that funnels sound into it. Next is the tympanic membrane, or the eardrum. This separates the outer and middle ear, as well as increasing the vibration of sounds that enter the ear. Journeying deeper, we have the three ossicles, which are the small bones that make up the middle ear and amplify sound. These are called the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Finally, the cochlea makes up the inner ear and is a snail-shaped tube with receptors for hearing that work as fluid inside the tube vibrate. Side note, there are also semicircular canals within the inner ear, and fluid movement inside these help to establish the body's sense of position in space or balance. Inside the cochlea, we have the basilar membrane, along which are tiny hair cells which bend and transduce the sound energy into a neural impulse as the fluid in the cochlea travels and vibrates. Once these stimuli are transduced, the auditory nerve, which connects the cochlea and the brain, transfer those neural impulses. The first type of deafness is called conduction hearing loss, and this comes when the bones in the middle ear do not transmit sound properly. This can be caused by infection or disease and can be assisted with a hearing aid. And the next type of deafness is nerve hearing loss. And this can come when the auditory nerve, the cochlea, or the basilar membrane of the inner ear are damaged by disease, old age, or loud noises, and can be assisted by a cochlear implant.
Next is chemical senses, such as smell and taste, which are both closely related and detect chemical signals. Smell occurs because the olfactory mucosa, which is located above the roof of the mouth. It sends information to the olfactory bulb, which is located near the hippocampus in the brain. Taste buds located on the tongue and allow you to taste bitter, sweet, salty, and umami. One of the senses is warmth. Warmth uses receptors for temperature that look like axon terminals without any structure around them. These are typically called free nerve endings and have ion channels that respond to particular temperatures. Warmth receptors usually respond best to any temperatures above body temperature, which is roughly 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold, which is a separate sense from warmth, best responds to any temperature below body temperature, so anything below 98.6. So when it comes to pain, there's usually a group of receptors that work together instead of just one specific receptor just for pain. And the way pain is detected is either by like a mechanical stimuli, which would be like a cut, or a thermal stimuli like a burn, or chemical stimuli like you get like stung by a bee and the poison from the bee sting. And so some of the types of pain that you can feel are like a sharp pain from like touching a hot stove, so you quickly move your hand away. And then another type of pain would be a dull pain, which is usually from an injured part of your body, and when you touch it, it hurts, so that you know to not touch that part of your body until it's healed. Pain is carried throughout the body by specialized axons that are meant to send and relay the information of pain. The gate can be closed by stimulating the wound with either ice or by rubbing it. Endorphins are chemicals released in the spinal cord which are meant to negate feelings of pain. Kinesthesis is the position and movement of the body. Next is Gestalt laws. Gestalt laws originate from a German word meaning whole, as in whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The first Gestalt law is figure ground. Figure ground organizes stimuli into dominant figures and backgrounds. Next is proximity, where objects near each other tend to be grouped together and perceived as one whole. Closure is the tendency to fill in gaps of incomplete stimuli, even though they may not exist. Good continuation is when you organize stimuli into continuous lines or patterns. Simplicity is the ability to organize a stimulus into a pattern of the simplest component. When talking about perception of depth and distance, you have to mention binocular cues, which are cues that rely on both eyes. Convergence is a type of binocular cue, which is when your eyes move closer together as an object gets close to your face. Another type of binocular cue is retinal disparity, which occurs because the eyes are in slightly different locations, so they have a slightly different view of an object. Perceptual constancies, how we perceive objects, is stable in color, shape, and size. One perceptual constancy is Emmert's law, which tells us the closer an object is to your eye, the larger the image it casts onto our retina, and as it goes away, the smaller image it casts on our retina. But we really know that the object isn't changing in size. Another one is shape constancy, which tells us perceptual processes allow us to maintain constant shape even though orientation or position of an object is changed. Like if you were to open a door, you'd still know that the doorway is rectangular whether the door was closed or open. The final perceptual constancy is color constancy, which is typically how we perceive color of familiar objects is constant, even though the sensation of color is changed due to something like a factor of lighting. And perception are altered by two different things, which is the perceptual set and your motivation. Perceptual set is influenced by what you would expect, like what you're expecting to see. And motivation is influenced by what you want or need. Parapsychology, also referred to as a sixth sense, includes claim reception of information not gained through the recognized physical senses, but instead with the mind.